Picture this. You're the manager, in other words, the mastermind, of a project, and to make it all happen, you need to define the activities involved. This are the to-dos of your project. Think of it as breaking down your project into bite-sized pieces, like turning a big donut into delicious bites. Today's video aims, as always, for simple and easy project management. We have already covered topics like understanding goals and non-goals, analyzing the project environment, or setting milestones for your project. These videos and even more tips are all put together in a playlist to watch or just listen to. You will find the link here and in the description box below. But now, if you are ready, let us dive into the definition of project activities, setting deadlines, and understanding dependencies in your project. To define activities in your project, you will break down the project into smaller, more manageable tasks. These tasks should be specific and actionable and should help you move closer to achieving your goals easily. Depending on the size and complexity of the project, you may need to assign tasks to different team members too. It's important to consider the skills and experience of each team member when assigning tasks, and to ensure that everyone has a clear understanding of what is expected of them. Based on the skills and experience and the complexity of the task, estimate how long you think it will take to complete it. We suggest to first write down just a simple list of activities related to your project without bothering to set deadlines or going into much detail. This will help you to create an overview of all to-dos before you start with the detailed timeline. There are several approaches you can apply when naming activities. Using our famous cake baking project, these are some helpful examples. 1. Use descriptive names. Choose names that clearly and accurately describe the activity. We want names that leave no room for interpretation or wild imaginations. So that is why we go with something like Design the Cake to outline the artistic masterpiece that lies ahead. And when it's time to get our hands dirty, we break it down further with Bake Cake Layers to ensure we're not lost in a frosting-filled haze. Remember, clarity is key, and the more descriptive the name, the smoother your project journey will be. So let's leave those wacky and mysterious activity names in the oven and stick to the tried and true method of straightforward descriptions. 2. Use action verbs. Begin the name with an action verb that describes the main activity involved in the task. For example, assemble cake layers or decorate the cake. 3. Use a numbering system. If you have a large number of activities, you might consider using a numbering system to keep them organized. Overall, the key is to choose names that are clear, concise, and easy to understand. By the way, we really appreciate that you are still with us and did not switch to a funny backing video yet. If you enjoy the video so far, please consider hitting the like button. Understand dependencies. Alright, let's explore the wonderful world of activity dependencies and how they can mess with your schedule. Buckle up and get ready to analyze those sneaky connections between tasks. Here's our suggestion to help you stay ahead of the game and keep things running smoothly. Step 1. Examine the relationships between activities. Put on your detective hat and start investigating the potential dependencies between activities. Think of it as playing a game of connect the dots. But instead of dots, you've got tasks on your plate. For example, you might need to consult with a friend before you can finalize the design of the cake. Or, obviously, you will need to bake the cake layers before you can begin decorating the finished product. Step 2. Consider the impact of dependencies on your schedule. Unravel the tangled web of dependencies and figure out which activities rely on others. It's like untangling a bunch of earphones, except way more exciting. Well, kind of. Step 3. Adjust your schedule as needed. Once you've cracked the code and uncovered those dependencies, it's time to factor them into your schedule. Based on your analysis of dependencies between activities, you may need to adjust your schedule to account for any potential impacts. For example, you may need to adjust the start and end for certain activities, or you may need to allocate additional resources to certain tasks. If one activity needs to be completed before another can begin, you will need to allow enough time for the first activity to be completed before starting the second. If two activities need to be completed concurrently, you will need to ensure that you have enough resources to handle both activities at the same time. Set due dates for your project activities. Now that you have defined your activities, and you know how they relate to each other, it is time to set deadlines for each task. Here it's important to be realistic when estimating the duration of each activity. Allow for some flexibility in case of unexpected delays or challenges. We enter the time travel zone of project due dates. There are two magical ways to make those deadlines appear before your very eyes. You can choose your preferred method, depending on your needs. Option 1. The backwards shuffle. If your project has a fixed end date which must be strictly adhered to, or you're just feeling a bit rebellious and want to work your way backwards from the final deadline, this one's for you. It's like rewinding time, but with a purpose. Grab your time turner, that is a calendar, and start calculating those due dates step by step. It's a bit like counting down to blast off, but instead you're counting down to project completion. 1. Identify the final deadline for the project. This is the date by which the project must be completed. 2. Determine the duration of each task. Decide how long you think each task will take, based on the skills and experience available. 3. Starting with the final deadline, subtract the duration of each task in turn to determine the due date for each task. We have explained this approach in the video about setting milestones in projects. If you need a detailed example how to plan backwards, please consider watching the other video too. Link will be in the description box below. Option 2. The forwards frenzy. If you're more of a forward-thinking kind of person, this method will be right up your alley. You'll start from the beginning and leap forward with each step. Think of it as taking giant leaps towards your project's finish line. It's like a sprinter racing towards victory, but instead of medals, you're chasing project milestones. For example, let's say that you have a project that starts on June 1st, and you have 3 tasks with the following durations. Task 1, 5 days. Task 2, 10 days. Task 3, 15 days. To calculate the due dates for each task, you would start with the start date of June 1st and work forwards as follows. The form is not important, but you can use something like this simple spreadsheet to make sure your project plan is easy to work with. If you want to use this free template, please let us know in the comment section below. One more suggestion from us. In the execution phase of your project, you will need the status of each activity to be marked in a standardized way. The template comes with a standard selection of 5 status options. You certainly can adjust the list if desired and needed, but we recommend using only 3 to a maximum of 5 different status alternatives for better clarity. Speaking of the execution phase, and if you have missed the video where we explained the stages or phases of a project in a simple way, this link will be below as well. And this wraps it all up. If you like our content, please consider subscribing. We would appreciate if you would share this video with somebody who might be interested too. Thanks a lot.